Hello, I'm Steven,
And I'm Aaron.
and we've just seen
Predator
Predator
Badlands.
Badlands, new film that's out in theaters right now, starring Elle Fanning, Demetrius Schuster Colamontangi, and it is directed by Dan Trachtenberg. It's hard not to feel a little bit cynical every time one of these franchise movies gets a new entry. It just gets exhausting after a while seeing the same thing repackaged and re released over and over and over and over again.
Jurassic Park.
Yes, I wasn't too excited about this. The previous film, that animated one, which I actually forgot the title to and had to look up, Killer of Killers,
Yeah.
left me very disappointed. Although I did like the previous one, Prey, despite a couple of issues I had with it. So the trailers didn't really do much to excite me. And I wasn't too hung up on it, but I was one of those people who was like, the Predator looks kind of odd in this one. It turns out there's a reason for that. We'll get back to that. The thing that you want, if nothing else, is to give me something that I haven't seen. Because I don't want to see another movie where Predator is just murking a bunch of soldiers out in the woods. I've seen it 5 times already. Or 4 times, plus once in the city.
Yeah.
So all I want is to see something I haven't seen, and boy howdy, did they give me that. Because this was delightful.
I was remembering a conversation about this series that you and I had a little while back. I can't remember if it was after Prey or if it was after Killer of Killers. But I wasn't really aware of this movie, and I don't think they had really shown very much of it. But I was talking about Dan Trachtenberg's abilities that he's showcased with this series to kind of come up with new ideas and take the series in interesting directions. And one of the things I always thought about that would be interesting, and one of the things I said was, it might be interesting to actually make a movie where the Predator is the protagonist. But a lot of monster movies kind of hinge on the mystique of the monster and not revealing too much of, who they are, what they are, their thoughts and feelings about things. Like they're the monster. They're not there to have those kind of feelings or emotions.
Yes, and when this movie started, I thought that was going to be a major problem for me. So, real quick, the plot is about a yautja, as they're called. I don't know if that term existed before this, or if it is, I've never heard it. But the predators are called yautja. So it's about a yautja named Dek, who is disowned by his father in the most cruel way imaginable. So Dek gets in a ship and travels to a planet called Genna, where he has a goal in mind. He's going to kill the mightiest creature there, this thing called the Kalisk, and take it back to his father as a trophy to prove his worth, because his father has deemed him weak, a runt of the litter, and pathetic and very, very unpredator.
Yeah, that's kind of the magic trick, is that he takes your kind of pre-existing notion of what the predator is and flips it on its head. It's like, okay, the predators, are these killing machines that exist for the hunt. So how do we tell a story about one of them? We'll make one of them like this weak guy who's not very good at what he does, and he's like you said, he's the runt of the litter,
And that's the reason why he looks so odd, because he's smaller and less threatening than the others.
He's smaller. He looks a little bit differently than the others. He's less threatening.
Yeah, once I got that piece of information, I was like, oh, okay, well, that clears everything up.
Yeah, and it's so how does their culture respond to somebody like this? Well, they see him as a weakness who needs to be culled and removed from the tribe.
Yeah.
That makes sense, and it's a good motivation to drive our character. And the intro of the movie does a really great job of establishing all these things and immediately getting you to actually care about this guy.
I will say that it took me a little while to get on board, because when it opened and it had all the dialogue with the predators, I wasn't on board, because like you said earlier, that's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, well, when you have them talking and carry on conversations, albeit in alien language with subtitles, it kind of just takes away all the mystique of the creatures. And I was like, it would be pretty bold if they were able to communicate all this visually with just silence and gestures and everything instead of dialogue.
The one thing I can say for that is they did at least keep Dek completely in his native language the entire movie, which is a good decision.
Yeah, it's the one complaint, well, one of the two complaints I had about Prey, which is I wanted the whole thing to be in Comanche. and then the other complaint was CGI Predator.
Yeah, but there's actually a good reason for it this time.
It appears that Deck is a man in a suit, prosthetic, but his face is the only thing that's been cartooned over because this one has a lot of dialogue. And
Yeah.
at first, it kind of took me out because it's like, okay, CG face, but I got over it.
Yeah, you become accustomed to it pretty quickly once you realize why they're doing it and the effect that it's actually having with making the character believable. Because, yeah, he's got to talk all the time. So, one, like, what does that look like? A predator with these flappy mouths that open up.
These giant fangs.
Yeah, they have to talk and they have like these clicking noises that they make. Yeah, so one, what does them talking look like? And then two, yeah, they have to emote. So like you need to understand when they're happy, when they're angry or upset about something, when they're supposed to like inspire sympathy in the audience.
Boy, howdy, they did that.
Yeah.
It's all in the eyes.
Yep, the eyeballs are the thing they nailed about getting this character to like really draw attachment from the audience.
Yeah, there was a number of really subtle moments where just a few small movements within the eyes just made me think, oh, I know exactly what you're feeling. I'm in. So, yeah, excellent job realizing this character. I totally believed it.
And like another thing it does is it kind of recontextualizes the race in the culture. And if you think about like all the other movies, I wonder what each one of those wants. What's the motivation of some of these other guys?
Yeah, Predator 1, just pure fun.
Yeah.
Just sport. But back to the plot, the other part of the plot is when Deck finally gets to Genna, he discovers half a synth named Thea. She is a synth who's there on behalf of Wayland Yutani, and Wayland Yutani is there also looking for the Callus for their own reasons. So Deck teams up with Thea to find the Callus on the grounds that she's a tool, because the Yautja have this code that Yautja hunt alone, but since she's a synth and therefore not human, he can use her as a tool.
Yeah, she has knowledge and information. He views her as a tool, and that's his kind of loophole for getting around the situation. This Predator and this whole movie is about rule breaker type characters, people existing outside of what they're
exactly
meant to do or what's expected of them.
At one point, a character states what is essentially the thesis of the movie, which is, we can be more than they ask of us.
Yeah, the movie's kind of like this road trip, almost Lord of the Rings type trek across Genna, facing the hostilities of the environment.
And this is where the movie really starts to shine, because these two character stories run parallel to each other. Deck is on a quest to find the Callus so he can appease his father, and Thea is on a quest to find the Callus so she can appease Mother, the AI who represents Wayland Yutani.
Yeah, and hopefully find her missing legs.
Yes.
So, it's a Predator movie, so you would expect it to be full of violence and action and blood and gore and stuff like that.
And it is.
But, yeah, this is a PG-13 Predator, but you wouldn't know it from watching it. They get away with it because it's all alien and android violence.
Yes, the MPAA has such a weird thing about this. If the blood's red, rated R. If it's pink, purple, green, or any other color under the rainbow, PG-13.
Yeah. But yeah, it's definitely not something to be afraid of. They don't really shy away from any of that stuff. I mean, there's decapitations and dismemberments in the first 10 minutes of the movie. And
if you go here wanting action, you will get your money's worth.
Yeah, the whole entire intro is like a prolonged hunt action scene, character intro into like another action scene, which leads into like him landing on the planet and facing off against the first environmental like hazard.
Which was concerning for me at first. It was just one action scene after another, and very loud and noisy ones at that.
I will say, I don't know if it's just like something from the studio to the theaters, but for whatever reason, this movie seemed like it was way louder than it needed to be.
Yeah.
Which is something I have heard other people say online, that this movie was very loud.
It must have calmed down after a while, because after maybe the first 30, 40 minutes, I didn't notice it anymore. Maybe it did calm down.
But yeah, that entire intro into when we finally get the title treatment, the splash of the title on the screen, everything about it is supposed to make you think 80s metal album cover, just kind of throwback movie, which I thought they carried that through to the end of the movie. It's just like a big adventure that you might have seen back in the day, with simple character dynamics, but interesting ones. Like the actual story is not terribly complicated, but the storytelling and the character dynamics are very well written and well developed.
And by gumbo, this movie has a heart.
Yeah, which is the other thing you wouldn't normally expect from a Predator movie.
Yeah, the relationship between Deck and Thea is the emotional core, and Elle Fanning's great.
Yeah, I really haven't seen her in a lot of movies that I can recall, but she's very good in this. Very enjoyable presence.
Everything I've seen her in, she's been pretty consistent. Like Live by Night, which wasn't a great movie, but I kind of enjoyed it, and she's good in
I
it.
forgot she was in that.
And of course, the Neon Demon, which you and I both love.
Yeah, but yeah, she's a very delightful, fun presence and a good counter to Deck, who is just so serious and everything is about hunting and the kill and getting my trophy.
Yeah, she's bubbly and warm and full of information because she's a bot who's there to collect research, which means not only does she collect it, but she gives it in abundance.
Yeah, she doesn't stop talking. She's always wanting to learn as much as possible, and even just the way they interact together. At first, he just is carrying her around, and then he gets sick of doing that, so he fashions a backpack out of her. And then through their journey, they run into obstacles and other creatures, and they constantly challenge each other in the way they think about certain things. Especially Dex idea of hunting alone and doing everything yourself, not having a pack mentality or a tribe working together. It's kind of every man for themselves. Seeing that kind of get challenged and
Yeah, his entire worldview, which is basically adherence to Yautja custom, that becomes challenged over the course of the movie, and he becomes something more.
yeah, without saying too much. And same with Dia. Her whole thing is she kind of has a realization about herself and her relationship to her company and some of the other androids, and she is kind of on her own quest to be, I guess, part of a family, if you want to say, without saying too much of what happens in the story. And then there is another creature that they come across.
There's a big question mark on this. It's the one move that feels a little bit too corporate. They come across this cutesy little creature that they give a name. They call it Bud. He looks like Nibbler from Futurama.
Yeah. At first, that's kind of where I was thinking that this was going. It's like, oh, okay, here's the Disney part kind of seeping in.
Because this film has been compared to Disney films because of there's sidekick characters, there's an adventure, and it's a fair comparison.
Yeah, it's a notably lighter in tone movie than pretty much the rest of the series, at least in terms of how much humor there is and how unserious it takes itself at times.
To which, when I was watching the movie, it occurred to me, now that I think of it, this series has always been goofy. It's just been different shades of goofy, like, you son of a bitch.
Yeah, yeah.
That whole archetypical
Please,
macho man.
we could kill it.
Yeah, like, those guys are straight up caricatures. And then Predator 2 in the city, come on.
Yeah,
that sounds ridiculous.
That movie's wild and full of cartoon characters.
And then we get into Alien versus Predator, which is just embarrassing.
Yeah.
And then The Predator, which, no comment.
Yeah. But yeah, that was kind of my feeling at first with this thing. Is like, okay, this is going to be the kind of the comedic relief of the movie, the cutesy plushie that they can sell, or the thing that kids can attach to, since this is a PG-13 movie. But as it kept going, that kind of went away because his entire character basically serves Deck's character and growth.
Yes, by Jove, they found a way to tie that into the story.
Yeah, again, without saying very much about the creature, Deck kind of has a realization about the world he's in and the connection to the environment and nature, and the ways he eventually uses that to his advantage is pretty cool.
Yeah, speaking of which, this is a very well-constructed movie. Deck, when he first comes to the planet Genna, like you said, he comes across all these environmental hazards, which you might at first think are just there for action beats, but then you find out we're actually setting up something that will pay off later. Hey, I love that.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. Even the weakest and the runtiest of the bunch is still more badass and resourceful than most people.
Yeah.
So yeah, the way he kind of learns about the environment is fun because everybody loves discovering a new world. But yeah, later the way he utilizes that to his advantage to help him, succeed in what he wants to do is very satisfying to watch and very clever, very fun. Like you said, just a very well constructed movie. It's an hour and 45 minutes.
Thank
so
God.
It doesn't overstay its welcome. Where would this rank on the Predator films for you?
I was thinking about this. Do I like this better than Prey? And I kind of want to say yes because of how much it surprised me and how different it was and how it felt like such a step in a new direction.
I agree. I feel like this might even just flat out be the best Predator film just because it actually has a story and characters and development.
Yeah, I'm tempted to say the same because while I enjoy the first Predator, it's never been a film that I like revere.
The first one is a really novel concept. You take like the stereotypical 80s action like machismo badass characters and you just eviscerate them, like show just how puny they are compared to this creature.
Yeah.
But there's not much else to it. It's fun to watch. Arnie's great. But this actually has interesting story and characters and dynamics. It goes interesting places. They take the concept and evolve it in an interesting new way.
So basically, when you're talking about all the good Predators, it basically comes down to three, which is Predator, Predators, Prey. Oh, and I guess now this makes four.
Yeah.
So what is your final number grade on a scale of 1 to 10?
In the kind of infinite landscape of IP manipulation and overextension, it's nice to have something like this that doesn't feel like a cynical mess. So, at least an 8. Maybe even a 9.
Yeah, I'll give it a very strong 8. I think they've kind of struck gold with this Dan Trachtenberg. The guy came onto the scene with 10 Cloverfield Lane, which, as you know, I love.
Yeah.
And that's still my favorite movie he's ever done, but this is a very close second. I didn't expect this much heart in a Predator movie, and I'm glad I saw it, and I'm glad it defied my expectations.
Yeah, and it's nice to actually have an action movie that doesn't suck in the action. It's not the most boring thing in the movie. Because an action movie with no characters is just watching stuff happen, so...
A special effect with no story is a pretty boring thing.
Exactly.